Hey, what's up everybody? Rob Marzullo here, Ram Studio Comics. Welcome back. So today's live stream is more of the fan art fun. It's a part 2 of the Supergirl drawing that we're going to be doing. And I'm going to show you how I edit the work and get through that. Let me first get my spiel out of the way. So if you want to support the live stream, there's links in the description box below. And everything through those links contributes to what I do here to keep bringing you new live streams and new content here on YouTube. So let's go ahead and jump to it. I'll wait for a few people to kind of chime in. To start answering any questions if you got them. And I'll go ahead and bring this artwork up. And, we kind of struggled with the hand pose a little bit. And this is still very much a rough sketch to this particular shot. But I want to show you the entire process and the way that I work through something like that. So, there's some big flaws that I want to fix in this, and I'll get right to it. So one of the things I like to do is actually do progressions of the work. So I'll duplicate here, so that I can kind of watch as I progress and see what choices I make and which ones might have carried it to a better direction and which ones might have been a little bit of a bad choice, because they're not all great choices, obviously. Okay, so we already got a few people here. Great, I appreciate that. Nice. Christo, he must be from a different time zone. He's like, damn it, Rob, right when I was going to bed. Guess no sleep tonight. Hey, I didn't get any sleep last night, so we're both in the same realm as far as that goes. So let's get to it. Yeah, Jalen says woot, Supergirl, and there's a few more. All right. So everybody's asking, or a few people are already asking, what version. I was gonna do the classic version, but then I was pulling up some images because I did this one entirely out of my head, as you can probably tell, and I essentially just felt like I needed a little more knowledge of what the costume was like and all that. So I went back and kind of referenced it, and I actually do like that new 52 costume. So I'm going to go ahead and do that version, so it'll also show you how you can start in one direction and, change some things pretty heavily. So let's see, what I'll first do is fix some of the errors, I think, in the pose a little bit. So I feel like the leg needs to be thicker right here. So I want to talk a little bit about how I make these small changes, but sometimes small changes can make a pretty big difference. The legs are extremely long, but I kind of like that over stylized representation, so I'll leave a little bit of that. But I'm going to change it to the new 52 costume, or at least I think this is what the new 52 costume is. I might change the curvature here on the hips. So we'll see how this works out. And I think the new costume, or the new 52 costume, is more like a cut like this. Maybe it goes down to the side here. I must say that hand is awesome. I think that hand's horrible, so I don't know if you're messing with me. You might be joking. But I was really bothered by this hand, actually, because it's just like, it just doesn't look right. So I went as far as to even having my girl pose for me and do some hand poses, which she's always kind of annoyed by, I think. But it's fun stuff, at least fun for me, I guess. And it's it's important to do, because you always get this kind of imaginative thought process where what you think it looks like, and then you look at it in real life and it's quite different. And you kind of have to hodgepodge those two concepts together, so the realistic combined with the animated kind of imaginative side that we have and what we're trying to do. So it can be tricky at times, but the hand kind of rotates downward. And what I've noticed too is what I'll make the mistake of is I'll have one part of it in what would be an upward tilt, and another part of it, like for instance, I might draw the hand in an overly upward tilt, but then the arm in a downward tilt or something like that. So I might try to mix two poses together in a sense. Let me zoom right up in here and try to fix this. So for instance, let me block it in and get just the wedge of the hand. I'm actually going to get some of this right out of there. And then let's have the thumb come down and out. I always want to draw the thumb the other way. The thumb's opposable, obviously, so it can turn all the way in and point the other way. But in an open hand pose, the thumb's going to be pointing outward. The thumb usually lines up with the bicep, so that's about right, somewhere in there. And then as far as attaching the fingers, they rotate down like this, and they start to hide behind one another as they go away from the camera or viewer or whatever. And then I find the best way to get this kind of pose is to like do these 3 overlapping shapes, but it doesn't always work for me. Let's see if it'll work this time. So I kind of do these like mini ovals to try to point them in the right direction, and this is just kind of the base structure of it. And then I'll soft erase back and try to redraw through that. And then, you know, the overlap is that little, kind of that little overlap that you get that kind of works with everything. Works with the fingers just like it works with the arm. So as the forearm goes in front of the bicep, you get a little bit of an overlap like that, and progressively as it goes back. And the overlap's real important to like get in the habit of figuring out, because that's pretty much the quickest way that you'll get foreshortening and depth into your pictures. It's all about figuring out the distance from each part of the body and making it look correct, but also getting that overlap just right is a big part of it. My pinky would come down like this, and then the hand compresses through here. It's larger on this side obviously and more open, but hands are a pain. You know, I constantly combat trying to get hands right. It's just never-ending battle. All right, let's see if this looks any better from a distance. Yeah, it looks too masculine for some reason. So what I'll try to do is maybe just scale it down a little bit, or in proportion to the rest, maybe tilt it. So we'll keep fighting along on that part of it. And I'm going to bounce around on the sketch because I want to show you how I think it's good to do that, because for one, you can gauge the time that you're putting on the piece a little bit better. And you know, sometimes you just have to do that so that you don't spend all day trying to get one thing right and then look at the clock and go, oh wow, I'm already way over time on this piece or something. Let's see what the comments are saying here. Ever tried drawing the fingers like connected peanuts? That worked out really well for me when I selected drawing hands. Not that I'm amazing at them or anything now. Yeah, that's actually a great one. And I remember hearing that particular kind of tip from a Todd McFarlane video. So really good idea there. What's great about that is it makes you think about the bones in the hands. And that's really probably the best way to think about it, because the more you can strip the body down into the bones, the anatomy, it makes a lot more sense. And then you obviously soften up areas so that you don't see as much segmentation or transition like that, or you get smoother transitions. But it's definitely a great way to think about it. So you're probably right. I need to kind of get back to the basics and the underlying structure. Oh, and Heroic Harley says it wasn't a joke. It's better than I could ever do. Yeah, you'll get there, and I still feel like I need to go a long ways to get to the hands that I want to draw. It's always that continuous battle, competition within ourselves, to see what we need to be better at and to go for that. What's a good way to break up workflow when you're working in comic books, like a general sense? Let me see if I understand you correctly. When you say breaking up a workflow, I think what you mean is segmenting the work in stages, but I could be wrong. So rectify me or clarify that if I'm getting it wrong. To me, it's just like what we're kind of going over here, where you basically itemize the work by structure, like big to, you can think of it like working big to small in a sense, but I think in comics it's not exactly just that. In some areas it is, like when you go to do a city, for instance, I always work big to small. When it comes to working on the human form, it's always like loose to tight, in a sense, loose sketch lines, gesture lines, to refined lines. And that's the way I look at it. Like I'm always trying to loosen up the beginning stage of the work, and see further into it. I don't know if I'm getting this leg part right. It seems like it would go something like that. So you start off like very loose and fluid, like one artist told me at one point, and I've mentioned this before in other videos, try holding the pen or pencil to the very end of it. Force yourself to actually lose a little bit of control over the pen, and it will force you to do more gestural stuff. You know, so you start thinking more about the bends in the body here, and the way the spine is, and the way the leg comes this way, and you keep it more fluid, and you do that for as long as possible in the beginning stages of your work. Unless, of course, maybe your style is a bit more mushy, you know, less solid feeling, then maybe you would go the opposite of that. But for me, what ends up happening, I tend to over-render and then make things look a bit too solid. So I need that fluidity in the work. I need that softness, especially like, you know, we're doing a female character, so it needs to be more subtleties and curvature or nice fluid lines there. So try to loosen up on your style. And if you build up with everything in these series of process, you'll save yourself time and you'll be able to pump things out on a deadline. Again, that's also one of the reasons why I move around the artwork, because I know that if I could spend all day trying to make this the most perfect foreshortened arm you've ever seen or I've ever drawn or something like that. But instead, it's better that I do as much as I can here, then I move over to here, then I fix the eyes up here. I always go for the worst aspect of it, and I try to make that the best, and then I move on to the next piece and so on and so forth, because there's only so much time in the day, and I'm not going to get a perfect piece of art today or next week or whatever, but I can do as perfect as I can for today, and I can get it done, and that's success in my mind. And then as time progresses, I will perfect things over and over again, a little more each day until that day I have to go in a pine box or whatever, you know. So it's like I'm not going to lose too much sleep over not getting it as great as it could have been today. I'll be more happy with getting something done and out to the fans or to print work, get the book done or whatever, you know, that kind of mentality. All right, and how does this neck piece go? It seems like it's like up high on the neck and then it crosses over, I think. It's like everybody started doing these really high collars on the costumes again, which is funny because I think this is like old school Star Wars type look, really. You know, it's like how everything kind of comes back after time. Something like that. Get the overlaps of the cape in there. So one of the things that I really want to fix is her face. Sounds funny. Got to fix her face, but it looks pretty bad. One of the things I don't like, you know, again, this was kind of a rough sketch, but I gave her the overly squinty eyes, and I really don't like that. So I'm gonna get in here and fix that a little bit. So let's see. Let's just soft erase these back pretty far. And I think the mouth needs to be bigger and the nose a tad smaller. Things like that. Hey, what's going on, Seth? Good to have you back. Oh, I'm good. That helped you out, Jalen? Glad to hear it. Yeah, and I don't always know exactly what you guys mean. You know, there's a little bit of a lost interpretation sometimes from reading the comments and responding back. So hopefully that was about what you wanted to hear or whatever. So yeah, so I want to make the eyes bigger by comparison. I like doing a little bit more of the, not quite anime, but you know, mix, I guess, between anime and American comics. And just a little bit bigger eyes, I think, looks pretty cool, so we'll try to do that. Forgive me if I go silent as I try to concentrate. Eyes are always tricky. It's real easy to get them wrong, I think. So I try to focus here. Can you hear it? Can you hear me trying to focus? And nice heavy eyelashes, especially on the outer edges, to really intensify the look of the eyes. And let's see, put the pupil not low, but not touching the top part of the eye, or else they'll tend to look sleepy. And a little glare on the one side, a little drop shadow there, like that. Beef up the top eyelash. So I always try to make that top one just really heavy, you know, and I think the more I tend to stylize the character, the heavier they get. And again, I won't spend too much time right here because I want to bounce around and try to keep fixing different aspects of it. Now the other thing that's really important, especially when doing faces, is to flip it. So you go, you know, edit, flip horizontal, right? That's the canvas. It takes a second, at least with my system, and then it moves the canvas. I don't know why it does that, but it's really important because eyes are always tricky to get the symmetry right, and it seems like if I don't flip it, I'll make pretty big mistakes with the shape of the face and the eyes. So move that forehead line back a little bit. Okay, we got another question. If we are 22, 23 watching, why is there only 6 likes? Guys, this is a class. Guys, this is class for your own good. Nice. Yeah, come on with the likes, everybody. Come on, hit the little button. It's not going to hurt you. It's there for a reason. It promotes me through YouTube or something. I don't know what it does, but just give me a like. Please. It doesn't cost nothing. Just a like. Yeah, at least you guys aren't hitting the dislike button. That hurts. That hurts, man. Okay. Oh yeah, I meant to do too. I changed the audio. Do you guys hear a difference? If any of you are repeat viewers, can you hear a difference in the audio? Audio check 1, 2, please. I spend way too much time on eyes. I did check out Gabby D on DeviantArt after your recommendation. She does very nice work and a good tutorial. Yeah, amazing eyes. Amazing female faces. The way she does the proportions and the big eyes and the cutesy look. It's spot on. And I always do that. I always reference other artists when I think they're really hitting the nail on the head for something like that. And she does. So yeah, it's good that you study her work because that will make you better for that. Okay, and a couple of thanks for the time I spent. Yeah, no problem, you guys. I love to do it. Will you be doing a tutorial on hair and hairstyles? It's a difficult subject for me at the moment, says Sean. Sean, good to have you back. Yeah, actually, to tell you the truth, Sean, I just made a photo comp of a bunch of different hairstyles so that I could study them and then do a video on it. So it's funny you mentioned that. I literally was already working on that. So there will be a new hairstyles video pretty quick. Because they're a pain for me too. Like I don't know if you guys notice when you see my work, I do kind of, I think we all do this, but I do kind of the same thing sometimes, like repetitively. And hairstyles is a big one where I'll do this repetitive thing, this big bushy shape of hair, and then I have to remember to refine it and change it because it's not particularly what I was after. So unfortunately, that just happens sometimes. You know, we get so caught up in what's in our mind's eye or memory or whatever, and you got to check that work by redrawing some new stuff, whether it be studying another artist that's doing something really well, studying from life, and then doing your own interpretation. But that's exactly what I do generally is I'll pull from life. And the good thing about pulling from life is you can actually mimic what's current in style, which is really big because we're doing this pop culture thing with comic. It's you got to basically have some various style of what's current, what's old school, stuff like that. I think it helps you to tell better stories if you're studying that and paying attention to that. So yeah, I'll make sure to be doing more videos on that real soon. All right, so speaking of hair, let me see if I can fix hers a little bit because this is pretty crude. I think that the eyes are still a little off, but I'll keep picking at those as well. So again, I'll soft erase things back pretty heavily, especially if I'm trying to make edits. Then I pretty much just soft erase it almost all the way back. But I still leave a hint of it there just because to me all this information is forward momentum. There's something there I can pull from and see into the work. So I try to leave little bits and pieces of what I drew before. And the best thing for hair, I think, is like if you do these big wavy chunks of like ribbons, basically, and get a lot of that in there and figure out some depth, some high and low spots. You don't want to just do, like, for instance, you don't want to just have this shape like this. You can draw it like that and draw into it, that's fine, but you got to envision the silhouette, and you got to also envision the highs and lows. So for instance, this might be a part that's a little bit higher, this might be recessed, this might go behind both of those. So I'm trying to think about that as I'm drawing it in. And I'm giving her the big hair again, but then I also want to make the hair go forward and back on the canvas. I don't want it all just going sideways like it is right now. So I have to try to envision that and put parts behind, you know, have some flips of hair going. I'll kind of give it lots of movement, obviously, so it looks like it's you know, flying in the wind. Alright, so let's take some of this, and we'll say this is way back behind the other hair, and maybe we'll use some heavy shadows to help illustrate that as we progress. Okay, let me read a couple of these again. And forgive me if I miss some of these comments. Sometimes I look out of the corner of my eye and they're coming in so fast, I got to be missing some, and I can't really scroll back because then it'll take me out of the drawing process. So just be aware of that. So try to, if you see the comments coming in, just kind of wait a minute till they subside. I don't know if that really helps because I know there's a bit of a delay there. But let me try to see what you guys are writing here. Okay, so a few people are keen on the idea of more hair tutorials. Cool. Yeah, it can be a tricky topic for sure. Let's see. Yeah, and I'll make sure to add some diversity in there too, Sean. I appreciate that. So yeah, it's like you got to have a lot of different hairstyles and options, you know, tools in your toolbox basically, and make a lot of different characters out of that. So I'll definitely address that as well. The sound is perfect today. Volume is only halfway up on my iMac. Oh, good. Okay, good. So yeah, so what I did is, for some reason, the audio settings got switched around in my my OBS program that I use to live stream through YouTube with, and I realized that inside those settings that my Blue Yeti mic wasn't set up in there. So I think it was pulling from the audio from the MacBook, and people kept complaining about the audio, and then I did the playbacks on some of the videos, and they sounded pretty rough. So hopefully that's fixed now. I don't know, we'll see, but it sounds like you guys are saying the audio sounds a little bit better. And I got the mic, you know, as close to my face as I can without worrying about hitting it and trying to draw and all this other stuff. It's like, so, but yeah, I want the audio to be good because it probably really hurt the experience if you guys can't hear what I'm saying as I'm trying to explain this. All right, so let me pan back and see what I got here. So again, this hair is looking kind of clunky and boring. I might do a couple little flips off to the side over here to break up the that weird shape, and I feel like it still looks a little bit too tall through here. We'll see. Sometimes I got to pan back and kind of take it all in to see if it's working. Yeah, I'll keep messing with it. Still doesn't, something's still not right about it. And let's see how this costume is. So it's more of a button-up collar kind of thing, it looks like. So it overlaps. Get more of that in there. It's all connected through the bottom. So the old school costume had this break right here that this one doesn't have. And then it's got this piece that comes up, down, over, something like this. Capes up here a little bit. It looks like it comes over the shoulders more, but I think this shoulder, I still want it to pop out in front of the cape because it gives us another small overlap to add to the foreshortened depth right there. Let's see. Only tip that ever helped me with hair was when you feel like you should stop, add more to it, stop. Oh, when you feel like you should add more to it, stop. Yeah, less is more a lot of times, and then it's really a kind of a style thing. You can do a lot with just a stylized effect of hair. So she has lighter hair, so we're going to do more of the shape and little bits of the shading. But if it's darker, for instance, you could just do these big shapes of shadow like this, or this is a pretty bad example, but you get the idea, and fill it in, and then do the line breaks off that. So there's like these quick cheats kind of for stylizing and adding the shading or texture to the hair. But when it's lighter, I think it's even a little bit trickier because you have to just get the overlaps right to kind of show the depth there. But we'll get into it a bit more. It'll, I usually, things like hair, I just have to draw it a couple times to get it feeling right. And then after I'm done, I'll do like the one where there's a few in front and you put a little highlight on the one side and it looks like it's kind of floating in front of the rest. So that helps out as well to kind of convey a little more depth to the hair. Alright, so still trying to figure out this costume. I think there's an emblem right in the middle, it looks like. Like looking at these other pictures for reference of the costume, it would be the super emblem, right? It almost looks more like a block right there. We'll just say it's something like this. And then we're going to get into the shading of the costume a little bit more too, hopefully in this episode. So what I want to do is refine as much of the pose as I can. So let me look at this from a distance and see if this is better. Okay, so what I wanted to show you too on this one was how you do the comparable versions of your work, which I think is really important. I've been doing a lot of step-by-steps lately, sharing them on my various sites and things like that, and I got some stuff coming out that I still better not talk about, but you'll see anyways. But what's really neat about doing these side-by-side comparisons is that you can really see the progression of your work, and you can make make adjustments that way. Now, obviously, this is more showing the difference of the suit, but I made a little bit of change to the leg there, the curvature of the hip, so you can see it was a little too curved and animated there or something. Oh, the other thing that somebody mentioned in the last one was changing this foot, and I did like that idea, so we'll go ahead and move to that now. So let's do that. Because it looks like it's resting right on the knee there, or kind of coming flat. Looks like her foot's really flat. So what we'll do to fix that is we'll just grab this part like that. Let's do Command X, Command V to paste it on its own layer, deselect, Command T to rotate, and let's try to just tilt this a little more, drop it just a little bit, probably look a touch more natural anyways. And let's put the foot behind the leg right there. Let's see how that looks. So we could probably get away with drawing the foot pointed right here as well, so that we get a little bit more of that foot over to here. I think it might look a little better. And do that little line on the bottom of the boot like that. Couple of wrinkles or something, and it might be too overly long, but we'll just extend the calf muscle down a little bit and thicken this up to kind of balance it, and pan back and see if it looks too long. I don't know that it does. It probably looks a hair too long. You guys can tell me what you think there. I gave her those really long legs anyway, so I don't think that it looks that bad, but I could be wrong. Just remember, really, one of the things for doing this is the proportions. Is generally the leg, even when you animate it and elongate it, the hip to the knee is generally the distance from the knee to the ankle. You got to also keep in mind you got a little bit of foreshortening going on there. It's roughly those proportions though. something like that. So that's close enough. I mean, it's a little bit off, but you know, whatever. It's animated. You can get away with it. Okay, look at the comments again real quick. Jeffrey says, "Woo, I made it in time. Sweet. Good to have you." Oh, Noah's saying, hey, you went with the new 52 suit. You know what it was? I was pulling some reference. Like I said, or I said earlier, I drew this from my mind's eye, the first pose, and it just wasn't accurate. And I was like, let me look at some reference. You know, it's always good to kind of check your work. And so I started doing that, and then I looked at it, I'm like, man, that new 52 suit is pretty cool. So let me just go ahead and go with it. So yeah, that's ultimately what changed it. But probably your guys' comments of saying I needed to do that was a big part. Oh, and then I missed a comment here. Do you know how long it takes to do one comic? Maybe a stupid question, but I really have no idea. It just really depends on the art style. For me, a comic takes 2 months. If I was to sit down, I pencil, ink, and story my own book. And I'm only on book 2 of my comic. Blackstone's taken forever, but I end up having to mix in all this other work. So that's really why it's taken this absorbent amount of time. If I'd sit down and pencil, ink, and story my own book, I've got it figured out. It takes me a little under 2 months. I could do it in a month, but I'd have to simplify my art style. I like a little bit more detail in my work than I probably need to. I could start using larger shapes of shadows and really, you know, just step it down a bit. It doesn't have to always be hyper detailed stuff, but it tends to be what I like to do. I really like to render. I really like to put lots of little designs in my work, you know, at times or whatever. But if you have a more simplified style, then you're going to be able to pump out more work. If you're just a penciler versus somebody that pencils, inks, colors, you know, then it's totally different. It's going to take you a lot more time. So there's a lot of factors that go into that. I know there's people that can produce a book a month and they can do all those things. And then I know there's people that just pencil and they can't do a book a month. So it's really dependent on a lot of things and what you're after in your artwork and things like that. And just be aware that, you know, there's lots of ways to simplify your work, and it doesn't mean pump out a crappy comic. It just means sometimes we overthink the process. I know I do. A lot of times I get too caught up in all these details, and I really could be flying right through the work, and you know, maybe skip a few things or something. But I think that comes with time. You know, if you just start producing more and more comics, you'll learn where you can cut corners and then the other part is just really learning the process. You know, one day you do all the thumbnails. Thumbnail your entire process. Do not skip that step. You know, that's probably the worst mistake anybody could make trying to make a comic. Scribble and thumbnail everything in a notebook pad, and then go back and start to refine it and stage all that work. It'll save you an absorbent amount of time. Oh, cool. Appreciate it. There's some nice comments in there. Appreciate that. This one's looking really good. Thank you. Appreciate that. What else we got here? Hey, YouTube didn't notify me that you're live. Well, that sucks. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what that is. So did anybody else here get notified? Because that's one of the reasons I came back to YouTube. I want to make sure everybody was getting notified of the live streams when I choose to do them. Yeah, good one. Horror Claus. Horror Claus, nice. Saw Santa Claus today. That freaks me out a little bit. All right, the thumb on the extended hand is dangerously close to being part of a tangent with the forearm. So yeah, definitely good call there. You're right about that, very much so, and that will actually hurt the foreshortening, the read of all that. So you're right, and he's saying Eric Larson does a really nice spiel about that, and Eric Larson is a fantastic illustrator, so it's good to know. I'll have to check into that. Okay, so a few people did get notified, so it must be something in your settings, bud, just so you're aware. Can you do tutorials on age, stages of life, and a character? Yep, I do have a couple on that, so you can search my channel, but I'll make sure to do more on that for sure. That's always a good topic. Let's see. Chaos Wolf says, if I'm saying that right, Chaos Wolf. Hello, Rob. Is there any good comic art channels like yours that you could recommend? I want to absorb as many tutorials as I can. Yeah, so when it comes to comic art tutorials, a couple that come to mind that I reference out would be, I'll just say three. You know, one I would say that's real similar and has a really unique style and does a great job would be Clayton Barton from How to Draw Comics. So you could look up his channel. I think he's linked on my featured channels on my page. Does some great stuff, some nice hyper detailed page work and character work. So check him out. Jonathan Rector's another great one. Does some really good live streams and process videos as well. Also uses this program and I think a little bit of Photoshop as well. And then the other would be like Draw with Jazza. He does some great stuff and does it a little more cartoon-like, but still has some great fundamental overall good knowledge. He talks about a lot of stuff across the board about being an illustrator and artist, and I think it all translates really well to what we do here. So, all right, so let me jump through a couple of these real quick. Okay, and after Max says, yeah, I got notified, and then also my wife got notified through Facebook. Yeah, so I sent a blast on Facebook as well. Okay, so back to this hand, I'll try to fix that little bit of a tangent, like you said there, because that, was it a tangent or something? But yeah, that thumb is, so I'll bring it over this way, and that should help that. And to me, yeah, it already looks a little bit better. And then we can get a little bit of that form coming up the bottom here, so that kind of helps. And it's probably because I was focusing so much on trying to get this hand right, because hands suck. I mean, it's nice to have them, but they're a pain to draw. And the pinky can always kind of tuck down and do its own thing. Just like the thumb, it can kind of take its own direction a little bit. And I guess I could try to bring this finger up. Maybe not, but let's see if it looks better. Kind of up just a little bit more. And this is what I constantly do with my work, just so you're aware. I mean, if you guys watch the channel, you probably know, but I'm always picking at my work and trying to mix it up and find, where these little mistakes are and where I can make it look a little better each time. And they're not all great additions. It's not always a forward momentum, and I have to step back and check the work and do something different. But just never give up. That's the main takeaway of that little spiel. No retreat, no surrender. I'm sure I got that from a movie, but oh well. It's good stuff. Okay, so yeah, little flicks of the hair here and there. And I'm almost to the point where I would just, go another level of refinement. But let me get the S on the chest. Gotta have that. And I'm trying to remember if this was... Oh, it's backwards, isn't it? I think I like it better from this pose, though. But I'll continue to flip it. But I think I'm going to go ahead and put the S on the chest facing this way. I like this pose better. Now the question is, can I get this right? So I want to show some curvature here. Get that bend. I think it looks cooler when the logo distorts with the chest a little bit. And I'm probably going to slaughter this S because I'm so used to drawing the other one. This will be the first time. You guys are actually witnessing in real time the first time I've ever drawn this S. This is scary stuff. I could fail miserably at this, and you guys are all going to be here to witness it. All 28 of you. Oh, well, I guess it's not that bad. Only 28 people will see how bad I'm about to draw this S. Eek. Yeah, this is horrible. Why did they have to change it? Alright, let's see here. The bar comes up here, across here. Witness, nice one. Oh yeah, and somebody's saying Trent Knuja. I don't know how to say that, but Knuja does some nice ones. Yeah, he's got some good art styles. I actually like studying his work for paint work. Yeah, no pressure. No, none whatsoever. No pressure at all. You know, it's funny too. I just got to where I could draw the other one out of my head without looking at reference, and then they go and change it. Thanks, New 52. Thanks, DC Comics. Always got to change stuff. Next thing you know, Superman's killing people and Batman's shooting guns. I just don't get it. What happened? What happened to the old days where Superman would never kill anybody? Just wouldn't do that. Oh well, times are changing. Guess I'm showing my age there. I'm sounding all old fogey, right? Okay, so then, and then she's got these little techie lines. This part I like. I actually, I've been doing this on my characters forever. They probably stole this from me. I was doing this way back in the day. I've always liked techie lines. But yeah, it's like now all of a sudden everybody's got techie lines in their suits. Pretty funny. And the great thing about the techie lines, in my opinion, is again, it gives you another level of depth that you can draw. Not to mention when you go to color it, you can do that little highlight shadow thing on each edge. But it's further, it takes it a step further than that. It actually allows you, like if you put a line here and down this way and back, it kind of gives you that feeling that that's more rounded than it was without it. So I kind of like little landmarks in the suits like that. Thanks, Seth. I appreciate that. It's the best S I've ever seen. That's going a little far. I know you're fibbing there, but thank you. What's the best way to get in? All right, I'm missing a couple of these again. Missed the start, but watched it off the live stream. Yeah, and it'll be, if you miss the beginning, it'll be posted after this, so you should have no problem. It'll take a little while to upload or whatever to YouTube, but it'll be there. And then, what's the best way to get into digital drawing as a beginner? I'm new to following your videos. You know, the main thing is just to draw every day, whether it be digital, whether it be traditional and digital, whatever you're, doing. Just put time towards it every day and study from artists that you admire, and you'll learn tremendously. You know, some great digital artists to look up to and see some really fantastic work. Besides the channels I just mentioned, Art Germ is an amazing artist, does some fantastic digital art. I think he's all digital. I could be wrong, but no, actually I've seen some of his traditional, but he primarily does digital. Another great digital artist that I mean to mention, Chris Scalf, good buddy of mine. He does some fantastic monster stuff. So if you're like looking to get better at monsters, dragons, ogres, I don't know if he does ogres. He probably should though, but he does all kinds of cool monster stuff. Check out his stuff. But that's really the best way is study from all these people, and then you have to learn, what kind of approach you're going to use, what kind of tablet. Don't get too caught up in that, though. I want to make sure I mention that because I've noticed a lot of comments where people are just so obsessed about what device they're using, and they keep releasing these new amazing devices, right? The next best thing. And keep in mind, that's just those companies trying to make money. That's not something you need to overly concern yourself with, especially as a beginner. You need to just focus on doing every day. That's the main thing. In any art form, the main thing is doing every day, drawing every day, painting every day, whatever you're doing. That is the biggest thing to excel what you do. Your mind just changes. You start to wrap your head around this stuff if you do that. If you don't, if you take large gaps, you'll have to start over a little bit. And that's just the way it is. It's like that with anything. You quit working out, you're going to get fat, or whatever. It's just you have to do it every day, and you have to focus on it, and you have to commit to it, and then everything will work itself out from there. And when it comes to those devices, yes, I'm using a Cintiq right now. It does a fantastic job, but you can get really good off the basic tablets. You know, you could even do really great stuff with a mouse. I mean, I'm not saying you could do this with a mouse, but you could do, I've seen amazing work come off a mouse. So it's just don't, as a beginner, don't focus too much about the device. Just jump in, start learning, and go from there. Sorry, I get bent up on that one because I see so many people thinking they have to have a Cintiq to draw this stuff, and it's not. I got a Cintiq because it helps me to be a bit faster and multitask, and because my line work comes out a little bit quicker. But it's not to say that you can't do amazing work with a regular, I call them lap tablets, but whatever, you know, like an Intuos or a Bamboo or whatever's out these days. Yeah, good one, Nova. Appreciate that. So Nova says, bro, I have a 40, and that looks like lire or something. I don't know what that is for money, but it's probably somewhat comparable. $40 lire or pound Wacom, and it's not the tool, believe me. And yeah, it's definitely the truth. And another thing I tell people too is start with the used one. These things, a lot of those tablets are pretty tough, especially the regular ones that plug in old USB style, or they're all USB, I guess, but the Intuos or Bamboo series, those things are really built to last. I've had my Intuos 4 for, God, I don't even know how many years. It's got to be 7 years, and that thing's going strong. So you could definitely start with a used one, and I know online you can get them for real cheap used. So, okay, so back to this. Sorry, I'm digressing a bit there. All right, so then I would take it from here, and I'd start to clean up even further. I want to get a little bit of the city going as well. So that's enough for me to say that there's my sketch. And like I said, if you were to put it next to the other one, I could probably safely say it's gotten a little bit better. I think the eyes still need to be fixed a bit more. Shape of the head, but hands probably still needs a little more work. But let's go ahead and say that this is enough. We'll kind of set her off a little bit off to one side. You kind of don't want to put your characters dead center. So I'm going to put it off to the side just a little bit. I could probably mess around with the tilt a little bit, but I think it's pretty close. And then as far as the background, let's go ahead and refine this a little bit more. So I can click that, turn it to blue line. I wanted her to appear that she's pretty high up on the page. Now, obviously, this wouldn't work if it was a cover. She would, unless she was in front of the title. But then as far as the city here, I want to get a little bit more information in place even before I drop the perspective lines. So let me add a layer over top. And let me know if you guys got any questions about this type of work as well. I'm going to do a basic 1-point perspective, and I'm going to try to show you how I would try to get a little bit of variation in the buildings, even in the sketch stage. I try to get a little bit of an idea going before I start setting the perspective lines and all that. Okay, just trying to read some of these comments. Still have the same question about when to use 1 or 2-point perspective, but I'll wait for your video on that. Yeah, so essentially 1 and 2-point perspective is just a matter of if something's at an angle to you, is at least the way that I use it, I guess. I think that's the only real reason, but essentially a 1-point perspective, everything's going to converge to this one vanishing point back here, right? So I'll just kind of loosely draw some lines out, and with Clip Studio Paint, you can hold Shift, and you can make some pretty quick perspective lines just to kind of get the ball rolling. So I'll just do this. You can see my sketch is pretty far off, but I try to get just a rough sketch in place first, an idea. And then if I need more lines, obviously I'll just keep going for the smaller structures back here. And then I just block in some basic shapes first, just to kind of get a feel for the scene. So if you did a 2-point perspective, there'd be a point over here and a point over here, and they would converge this way, and you'd get the corner of an object like that. Forgive me drawing through the art, but hopefully you can see that. So that's really the only thing. It's when you're tilting an object, because when you start doing really complex scenes, I'm going to keep this one pretty basic, but you start adding vanishing points kind of all over the place because you have objects that are tilted individually from the scene. So for instance, I got all these buildings kind of converging to this one spot, but sometimes you're going to have a building that's tilted, or maybe a couple buildings that are tilted this way. Well, then you're going to add a vanishing point to the same horizon line that's about right here. So those are going to converge over there. And I would obviously do that in Clip Studio because it does these vanishing points off screen, which is really helpful. But that's when you tilt something. So I might have a building that's tilted this way. I'm not going to put that right there. It'll look awkward, especially based on where a foot is. I just want to get a couple structures. I'm not going to do probably an overly detailed city, I don't think. Have them trail off. But the other thing is you want to try to not make them all like what I'm doing here. I'm making them all way too rectangular or squared like this. But I'll use this kind of starting point to get the idea in place, and then I'll refine them as I go. So I'll make some that are wider. And then if you notice anything above the horizon line that's across here, the lines start to go up, and anything below the horizon line here, they start to go down. So it's pretty basic rules when it comes to perspective, but it's knowing those rules so that you can do this stuff rather quickly and draw out your scenes. Yeah, so, sorry, I probably should have said, I'm reading the comments again. So, let me pan back and see if this is working. Yeah, it's okay. It's looking too clunky, but I always just keep moving forward. Like, that's one of the other things I want to make sure to mention. Like, whenever you're doing this and you're like, I can't get this figured out, it's not working out well, I was hoping it would look better, or do this or do that. One of the things I always say is keep making marks, because every new mark on the page is a step closer to being done, but also to the idea process. So for instance, if you stop making marks and you just keep analyzing the work, you might just stop altogether. You might get disenchanted and walk away from it or something. But if you keep making marks, you're making small, sometimes not so small, but you're making these little decisions as you go. And I think that's so important to really think about, because each mark you make is a step closer. It's a small decision that will help you, even if it's a failure, it's something not to do again. So in a sense, it's still a success. So it's continuing making those decisions to get through it. So just remember that. Just always keep making marks, and you'll eventually hopefully get it figured out. And then, one of the things I probably should have did with the city here is pulled some reference shots and set them off to the side. I didn't do that. I'll just kind of fumble through this, but it's a good idea to do because there's so many variations in buildings and cities, but I want to show you how I'll work through this naturally, and this is how I do it. So I'll draw those blocked in buildings like that, and then now I'll go to a perspective tool, and let me read through these real quick again to make sure I'm not missing a whole lot. Aftermax says, I agree. I think perspective is easier, but I hate drawing buildings and backgrounds. Characters are difficult but more interesting. Yeah, for sure. And I agree with that. I think that perspective has a set series of rules, and then once you know those rules, it becomes pretty easy. But it's hard to kind of stick with it. It takes more focus, I think. I really do. I think it takes a different level of focus, and it does sometimes appear to be a little bit more like work to me. But you got to get over that. You got to do it because it's so important to making a dynamic scene. So let's see, I'm going to get a 1-point perspective here. And I absolutely love the perspective tools in this program. They were actually pretty tricky to me at first. I remember that I was like kind of boggled by it because there's so many settings. But the reason why they're so good is because, or I guess the reason why they're so tricky is because they're so good. There's so many options here to really edit the work. So I kind of line up my perspective, and again, this is real easy. It's just a 1 point, and it really doesn't matter where these are. These are just visual guides. And then remember, you can toggle off the ruler by clicking these little diamonds. So if I click it, it turns green. It's no longer active. Purple is active. So this is nice if you're trying to itemize just one part of your perspective. And then remember not to grab the little plus signs, because it'll move everything. It'll move the horizon. It'll shoot these all over the place. Use the circles and then the plus if you're just trying to quickly change the off-screen vanishing point interactively. So I usually don't use them. I just do it the way I showed you here. And other than that, you can grab the plus signs here. You can tilt the horizon. I don't do that either. And I like to create a new layer over top. And let's see, I'll call this, I don't know, background 1 or something. And then move that over top of my blue line. I keep the, and actually over the top of this is my background sketch. So let's call this background sketch. And if these start getting real advanced, I create groups to them. Okay, and then past that, I'm ready to start drawing over this. And then I have to just draw through because my perspective is going to be off. You know, because again, I just rough sketched it. So I'll just kind of clean this up a little bit. Yeah, I think the best thing with buildings and things is to do lots of little segments, lots of little overlaps. Here we're going to be looking up a little bit at the building so we can kind of have the bottom of the trim right there. But lots of little overlap segments, transitions. You know, you can do like a trim piece on the side, so you're going to get a little bit of the shadow or the edging from that. Maybe this is the top or edge of a rooftop kind of thing. So maybe get a little drop shadow in there, you know, so on and so forth. And you just, you know, you figure out where your windows are and what size you want the windows. And this is a tricky thing because, you know, everything is size relationship when it comes to this. So, you know, obviously if the window's that size, we're pretty close to it. And she's not as high up in the air. If I get rid of that, and it's amazing it took me that many lines to make a window. But then I draw these tiny little, like skyscraper windows, for instance, right? So now they're like this. All of a sudden she's way higher up in there, and this is way larger of a structure. So, you know, it's all size by relationship, size by comparison, I guess, that forms the feeling of the structures when you do this. So by doing this type of trim, I'm almost making it look like it's more a series of living structures, which I don't want that really, because actually I want this to feel like she's pretty high up there and these are big skyscrapers. So I'll just keep changing the trim lines to reflect that. So let's do this. I'm just going to clean up these lines. And I can go back here and then across this way. And then you can always go to transparent like this, and you can clean up these lines. Or what I like to do is set my eraser to a non-snap tool, and then I can just flip the pen around and soft erase without it snapping to the perspective rulers. So you got to bring this line back to this line, then out, this line out here. So you can see my perspective was pretty far off. Like that. All right, let's see. Hope you guys take notes while we're here. Nice. Yeah, please take notes. There'll be a test on Friday. And let's see what else. Agreed. DS panel. Okay, and you guys are talking back and forth a little bit. Cool. Yeah, you know, and somebody's saying it's awesome how you can get some depth with just a few lines. And that's really the neat thing about perspective, is that it immediately creates a sense of depth. And that's why you got to have this stuff in your work. You know, you don't want to fall victim to the habits of always drawn against a blank white canvas. You know, like, so I've seen these people that do these amazing characters, so it's great character work, but they really shy away from their backgrounds, and I've been guilty of that as well. But you want to really fight that, because the backgrounds will convey such depth for you, like you're saying. So you really gotta, you know, just figure it out and just keep drawing them until they start to look right, because they're gonna look wrong at first. You know, nobody, I don't think anybody starts off doing amazing backgrounds. Maybe they do. I definitely didn't, and or don't still. I think my backgrounds still need work, but you know, you just keep going at it. And then you do as much out of your mind as you can. And when you can't do any more that way, pull from some reference and study it. You know, study. You know, it's a really neat effect is you take a cool background shot, photography shot, whatever, and you draw through it, so you see where all the lines go. And that's a really neat way to learn perspective, because you'd be amazed at what you figure out when you do that. A lot of times you're thinking something works a specific way, and it doesn't. And, you know, same thing with the body. You know, take a cool picture, draw through it, really study it, and oftentimes you'll be kind of amazed with what you learn through that process. I'm going to just try to draw through this rather quickly and get a few shapes in here. And then I can get rid of that ugly sketch. I absolutely love how the perspective tools work in this program. They really did just nail it, you know. And it like amazes me that anybody would draw without these. I mean, I know traditional artists just love traditional art. You're not going to get them to switch overnight, anything like that. But there's so many time-saving techniques for this. I'm actually thinking about trying to make some custom brushes to do buildings faster. I haven't figured it out yet, aside from just creating like sides of buildings and series of windows and saving that out as a brush. But I was trying to make it where you could draw the windows right in. I can't seem to figure that out yet. Hopefully I'll get it, and if I do, I'll share that with you guys. I'll let everybody know, but just know that I'm kind of working on it, because I think it would be really nice to be able to block this stuff in faster, and not in any way to cheat the process, because to me what happens when you make tools like that to expedite parts of your work, you just free up other parts of your mind to be able to come up with new ideas. So that's the only reason I do that. I don't do it like, you know, hey, here's all my clip art, make your own art out of my clip art. That's not really the idea. The idea is, let's make certain aspects of it easier, and then spend that brain power on creating new ideas, and you know, changing it from there, or elaborating on it, I should say. Okay, let's say it's enough background, or let's see what it looks like without the sketch now. So toggle that off, and then I like to take the ruler off just so I can see a little bit better. Yeah, so it's starting to come together. You know, it's still obviously very blocky, but you can get a better sense of the overall picture now. And then for the background, I'll end up doing a flood fill behind her. That way I can draw behind her, but luckily she's not over a massive amount of the detail, so it's not as necessary to flood fill behind her, but I'll probably still do it because it's kind of the process I take. Let me read through these real quick. Mental notes, cool. You guys are taking mental notes, good to hear. Sean says, do you ever take commissions? Yep, I sure do. I just did a commission of Batman last week, or maybe before that, but I think it was last week. So yeah, I do them every now and then. I don't do them as much as a lot of artists do. Some artists just like thrive on commissions. I don't do as many like that, but and I tend to want to do them digitally, but the last one I did was traditional. And then I do a bunch at comic conventions when I go to them. DCS says, I hate tests. Yeah, you don't want to come here for another test, right? Oh, okay, so somebody's saying, sorry about the stupid question. Never feel like that. The only stupid question is the one you don't ask. So my mom always made me feel that way. You know, like don't ever hesitate to ask a question. A commission is just like a privatized, somebody pays you to do a sketch, a drawing, a painting, whatever it is. It's an art commission is what he was talking about. So, yeah, so I appreciate you guys asking about that. Yep, and then everybody's answering back. Yeah, I guess I didn't have to answer that. Like 3 of you answered back. Sweet. I love the community thing going on. What software are you using? Mango Studio or Clip Studio? Is it the same? Yes, they are the same. This is Mango Studio, Clip Studio Paint, and it's pretty much the one that I use predominantly for all my comic work. I do some drawing in Sketchbook Pro 8, and I'm on Procreate on my iPad Pro, but this is predominantly, like I do my entire Blackstone comic all on this. And it's an amazing program. It's a little bit more, how to say it, architecture heavy. Again, it does so much that it can be tricky for people to use because it's so powerful of a program. But the reason it's so powerful and the reason why it's sometimes complex for people is the same reason why you want it, in my opinion, because you just have so many options to create your work. This is a fantastic program for digital painting. You can compile entire books in this software, the EX version. It's got perspective tools. I mean, I can go on. It's got one of the best brush engines I've seen, you know, so on and so forth. It's just a really good program. And those are some pretty ugly clouds. So this is another one. Clouds are like hair. I have to draw them a few times. So it's one of the things where I'm trying to get like a flow going. And then it seems like once I get that flow going, I can draw them nonstop. So I probably should just sit around and draw. Once I warm up to it, I should just sit around and draw clouds all day and get all the clouds I need for the next 50 images. I don't know, but yeah, I always sit there and struggle. Like right now, it's looking more like the fire off a building or something. I'm not going for that. So I might have to keep playing around with this to get good clouds. And I just kind of keep repeating the same process. Goodness. Okay, and another question from Aftermath. I'm thinking about taking commissions on Deviant, but I'm a bit nervous about it. Do you have any recommendations? You know, the only thing I could say there is just be as upfront with everybody as you can about what you're doing, and you know, say, hey, do a little mock-up sheet to show people what they get for different price points. I think that's really important because sometimes people will see your best work or something that you spent a week on or a couple days or whatever, however you work, and they'll think that that's what they're getting. So you got to make sure they're really aware of, hey, this is what I do for $50. This is what I do for $100, whatever your price points are. But yeah, if you don't do that, I think that can come back to bite you. And then the other thing is to be really forthcoming about your ability to deliver on a specific deadline. If you don't, that can be a big problem. And I always tell people I get a lot of projects, and I don't always get the time to stay on a commission. So I oftentimes have to ask for a month, a couple weeks to a month to do a commission. And if I'm already backed up on work, it could be longer. So just be aware of that, because I don't know if you're a working professional or yet or whatever you're doing, but that's the big one that I would make sure that you really spell that out for people and let them know, hey, I might need more time. Are you okay with that? And if you think that's going to come back to bite you, you might not want to take the job. Sometimes the money, you need the money or whatever, you're trying to pay bills or whatever you're doing. But don't let that be your only motivating factor. If there's a mix and expectation to what you can deliver to that client, it's real important. So maybe I'll just do these overlapping cloud shade. I don't know. I'll just throw them in there like that for now, and then I'll have them get smaller as they go to the horizon to, again, try to get a little bit more visual depth going on there. And, don't forget the little birds. You got to do little birds. They're just cute. Oh, yeah, little birds. So now you know she's up in the air. Let me see here. The specific thing I love on Mango Studio is that if you draw with a hip tab, it feels like you actually have a bit of resistance, which creates the feeling of weight. I don't know what a hip tab is. Draw with a hip tab. Yeah, the feeling of the drawing program is fantastic. I don't know what a hip tab is. So clarify that if you can. Do you still do 3D modeling in ZBrush every now and then? How do you like it? Yeah, absolutely love ZBrush. I don't get to do enough of it because I spend a lot of time doing 2D images like this and painting. But I need to get back on it because I always feel my art level expands by using ZBrush. I absolutely love it. I mean, I bought the program just because I loved modeling. I started modeling with Sculptress. Keep in mind, Sculptress is free. You can kind of get your feet wet with that and then migrate over to ZBrush. And yeah, it's an amazing program, and it's really worth. You can make a substantial income just with ZBrush if you get good enough, but you gotta really get good because there's a lot of great ZBrush artists out there, like anything else. All right, let's see. Okay, glad I could help out, Aftermac. Yeah, and I'm going to bring it to a close. We're at actually an hour 11, so hopefully you guys can see a pretty good difference in the artwork, what we're able to achieve to clean it up. We're still working on it. We're still going to, we're going to get in there next, and we're going to do some shading on the suit materials. I want to show you how I would shade one area and then not the legs. Like, for instance, on this blue, I would give a little bit more shapes of shadow and effect to it, and then I do less on the legs, more on the suit material here. I do a bit of a drop shadow on the cape, so we'll delve into that in the next episode. And just be sure to like, share, and subscribe, all that fun stuff. Share the videos so that people know what we're doing here, and if they're into comics like we are, they can come participate and check it out. Helps me progress the channel. And remember, there's links in the description box below for the stuff that I do to, my Gumroad brushes and other video tutorials and things like that. And then last few questions, so I'll answer what I can before I close this out. How to start getting paid? I must have missed a previous comment there. I don't see what you're saying there. Just oh, got it. You're calling it a lap tablet because it's like shooting a gun from the hip. Gotcha. Hip tab. Got it. And I don't understand what the one person saying how to start getting paid. I don't know what the previous comment was to that. Have you ever tried the 3D mannequins in Manga Studio? Yes, I have. I don't use them a lot, but I've heard of people that use them and absolutely swear by them. I just don't use them as much as I should, but we'll get into that in the future too because they are highly powerful. Oh, got it, Seth. I appreciate that. So he's saying check out 3D Coat just for fun. And Seth's saying bye. So see you later, Seth. Yep, thanks, Nova. Appreciate that. Appreciate you coming through. And thanks, DS Piano. I appreciate the comment there. Yeah, so everybody's just saying thanks. So yeah, so again, thanks everybody for coming in and being part of this. More on the way real soon. So keep up the hard work, keep drawing, and keep having fun, and I will talk to you later. Bye for now.